Hi, and thanks for tuning in for the 4 problems for this evening's homework. It is on textbook page 153, and this is for section 2.7, which is finding the percent of a number. So these are the 4 problems worked out that I promised you. Number 21 is the first problem that I chose, and that problem is 28% of 575. I'm going to work this problem out both ways, so method 1 and method 2. So the first method I'm going to use is going to be 28 per 100 because it's 28%. And then we need to simplify it. So we're going to divide by 4, divide by 4. That gives us 7/25. So now that I have my 7/25, I'm going to multiply all of that by 575. So now you'll see that I can cross simplify the 25 and the 575. And what I've done here is I've divided them both by 25, and I get 1 on the bottom and 23 on the top. Alright, so from here we've divided 25 out from the bottom, and we got 1, and we divided 25 out from 575, and we got 23. So now we just need to multiply 23 times 7, and you can see we get 161. So our final answer for 28% of 575 is going to be 161. Now a special note on these percent of a number problems, one of the number one mistakes that students make is leaving the percent sign on after they've found the percent of the number. This is no longer a percent. What you have found is 28% of 575. So the number that you found is an actual whole number now, no longer a percent. So again, this time we're still going to solve the same problem, but I'm going to use method 2. So 28% of 575. So we're going to use the percent to decimal left. So I even write on my paper PDL, and I'm going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the left, like so. So see my big blue decimal there. Then the next thing we're going to do is take 0.28, which is our new decimal. Remember that leading 0 doesn't change the value at all. And we're going to multiply 575 times 0.28. When we do that, we end up with 161.00, and actually the numbers that you get on the bottom is 16100. Now I want you to make sure that you remember way back to chapter 3 when we were multiplying decimals. So remember, multiplying decimals just means you multiply the numbers as if there were no decimals, which is what I've done here. That's why we have 16100 on the bottom. And then when you're all done, you're going to do your swoop swoop. So 2 swoops out. Notice the red swoop swoop on the 28 or the 0.28. So I move the decimal 2 spaces out. Now again, this is not because it's per 100, always 2 spaces. This particular decimal is 2 spaces. So 2 spaces out, which means when I bring it back in, it's 2 spaces back in. So 2 spaces, 2 spaces. On your paper, you should write 2 spaces, 2 spaces, so that you really solidify your understanding of moving that decimal out and then moving it back in. So your final answer again is 161. So you'll get the same answer with both methods. The next problem is number 25. So I chose 25 because it was a percent less than 1. So we've got 0.03% of 1500. So me particularly, I'm not even going to dare try and put this into a fraction. I know you can, but it's definitely not the easiest method. So I'm going to go right to my percent to decimal left method. So you notice that I start with 0.03% and then I write PDL on my paper. You should do the same. So you want to write PDL so that you remind yourself that you're going 2 spaces to the left, because it's much more comfortable for you to want to move it 2 spaces to the right and call it 3, because 3 is a number that you're comfortable with. Unfortunately, 0.03% does not convert to 3. So let's go ahead and see how we do that. We're going to move 2 spaces to the left, percent. So now our new number is 0.003. Now notice we've got 1, 2, 3 zeros now that are behind to the right of our decimal, because see our red decimal now is the new one. So that's where I got the 0.0003. Now we're going to multiply 1500 times the 0.0003. So you go ahead and do that, and we get 4500. Now remember what I said before, when you're multiplying decimals and whole numbers, or decimals and decimals even, you multiply as if there are no decimals at all. So that's what we did first. But then when you're done with your answer, you need to do some swooping. So let's go ahead and do that now. We went 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces out. So I'm going to write 4 spaces right there. So since I had to go 4 spaces to get rid of that decimal, that means I'm going to have to go 4 spaces to get it back in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now that decimal is going to go right in front of the 4. So now my final answer, 4 spaces, my final answer is going to be 0.45. You may be wondering, well, first, where did that first 0 come from? Remember, that's the leading 0. You have to have that 0 there. It's a formatting thing. And then you might wonder, well, why don't you have the 2 zeros at the end? Again, that's a formatting thing. When zeros come at the end of the number and there's no non-zero after it, you can drop all those zeros. Not only can you, you should. The next problem is going to be number 29. For problem number 29, we have 76% of 524. So 76%, I'm going to use the percent to decimal left method. Swoop, swoop to the left, 2 spaces. My new number is 0.76. Then I'm going to just multiply 524 times 0.76. And again, when we're multiplying decimals, you just multiply as if the decimals are not there, which you can see that I've done here. And then at the very end, notice our decimal here right before the 7, we're going to swoop, swoop out, 2 spaces, and swoop, swoop back in, 2 spaces. So our final answer is 398.24. Number 32. I chose to do number 32. I'm only going to do the line for week 2. So what you see here is basically just a written version of the table that you see to the right in your textbook. So for the ski sales, it says that there's 175 ski sales for the second week. Then the blank says the percent of the total. And then it says the total sales were 250. So what they're asking you to do is to fill in that blank. They want to know what percent 175 is of 250. So let's see how to tackle this together. The first thing you want to do is set up the 175 as the part. So see the part, that's the ski sales, because there was another part to it that wasn't ski sales, sorry. But they want to know what percent the ski sales are to the total. So 175 is the part and 250 is the whole. So we're going to set it up sort of like a fraction. Then we're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. So we take 175 divided by 250. Now we know, because this is actually just a regular fraction, meaning the small number is on the top and the bigger number is on the bottom. So we know right away we're going to have to do our 0 decimal decimal 0, because when we have any sort of normal fraction, meaning the large number, if you have the large number on the top, then it's a different story, but this is a normal fraction. So as soon as we have that, we know our number is going to be less than 1. So 0 decimal decimal 0. And then we ask ourselves, how many times can I divide how many times can I divide 1750 by 250? So 200 plus 200 gives you 500. So 500 plus another 500, that accounts for 4 of them. And then 5, 6, 7. So your total is going to be 7, and that actually brings you directly to 1750, which leaves you with 0. Now we're not finished with the problem, because this is not 0.7%, this is just 0.7. So we need to take this decimal and change it into a percent. So to change the decimal of 0.7, you can see that I've rewritten the problem again. And now I've written, oh no, I wrote DAPL, DPL, need to fix that. And we're back. And now it says DPR, like dipper, pedal dipper. My apologies. So now we have 0.7, and we're going to use decimal to percent right. And so then you're going to see us do swoop, swoop to the right. Remember, always two spaces for percent to decimal left, decimal to percent right. And the reason is because that's your percent conversion. So you're talking about percent, which is per 100, which is 2 spaces. So now you have 70%. And this concludes the 4 problems worked out. Good luck on your homework, and I look forward to seeing you during our next class period.